Hey guys, Equinox here, and this is going to be the Season 2 monk guide finally coming. The written guide's been out for about a week now, but I wanted to make the video guide and kind of go over everything in the guide and a little bit of extra stuff, just so everyone's prepared for Season 2. So first, let's go over the basics. Let's first talk about the abilities, so we'll go over them in order of the guide. First one is Rising Sun Kick. Right there. This is your second highest single target damage ability in one global, and a good filler option in AoE when you don't want to spend energy on it or on like an ability. So like say you don't want to spend energy on Tiger Palm, or you don't want to spend energy on Keg Smash, or don't have the energy to spend on Keg Smash, then a Rising Sun Kick is a really good option. This also cleaves with Master of Harmony, but we'll go over all these little interactions later. Keg Smash, this is something everyone should be familiar with. This is your bread and butter. You pretty much use it on cooldown, not as much as you used to, but it's really good for AoE threat. Gives you brew cooldown reduction, and then is just really good damage. It combos off of talents, which again we'll go over later. Your most important ability this season, absolutely number one, is Blackout Kick. This ability procs your mastery. It gives you shuffle, which increases your stagger, which is your mitigation. This ability you need to use it literally on cooldown. This buffs Keg Smash again with talents. This buffs Tiger Palm, buffs Breath of Fire if you ever need that. Absolutely number one most important ability. Your hardest hitting single target ability, at least the highest height, is next, Tiger Palm. This is your other filler ability, and it also is what you combo with Blackout Kick. Again, we'll go over that later, but this is just really powerful ability. Does extremely high priority damage, good single target. It also gives you Bruce CDR. Next is Spinning Crank Kick. Decent AoE damage. It's mostly just for grouping nowadays. It also pulls in Gift of the Ox Orbs, and Gift of the Ox Orbs is what you get for healing. So Gift of the Gift of the Ox is you take about 100% of your max HP, and then you spawn one orb. This is pre-mitigation, so that's why you spawn so many in higher level content. And you also get a chance to summon one with Rising Sun Kick and Blackout Kick. So that's why using like Rising Sun Kick and Blackout Kick on cooldown is very important. You get more orbs, more healing, etc, etc. Yeah, Spinning Crank Kick, mostly just used for grouping nowadays. The damage on it's pretty mid and not really worth pressing. Crackling Jade Lightning, this ability, you pretty much just use this to tag far mobs. So say I'm like right here, boom, tag this mob, boom, tag this mob, and they run in. Just nice, simple little grouping tool. Nothing too special. Expel Harm, this is your like biggest primary method in pulling in orbs. So say you're like low HP and you want to use like 3 or 4 of your orbs, or even 5, to full heal yourself. You would just press it and then boom, consumes all the orbs. Super easy, you don't have to do anything else. And this also does extra damage back at the target based off your orb healing. So we'll go over that later, a little bit of nuance. Detox, this is your cleanse. This dispels poison and disease. Good for some very niche scenarios and just nice to have talented into. Never know when you're gonna need that. Breath of Fire, this combos with Keg Smash. Whenever a person is afflicted by Keg Smash or Special Delivery, you can Breath of Fire. This puts up a dot and they deal 5% reduced damage to you. If you combo that with Blackout combo, it's 10%. Pretty good. You pretty much just want to keep this up as much as possible. And then Purifying Brew, this cuts your stagger in half, or 60% if you're Master of Harmony. And then it also has a synergy with the talent called Guy Pins, which heals you for 25% of that stagger or that Purify. So nice little heal, clears your stagger, makes you take less damage. It gives you good chunk of healing, and just overall your bread and butter like mitigation. And then we'll go over Celestial Brew and we'll go over the interactions of that. So whenever you purify, you'll get a stack of purified chi, and then that goes up to 6. This got changed this patch. It used to be a max of 10 and it got changed to a max of 6. Now, while this seems like a small like quality of life buff, it was very big for Master of Harmony, and we'll go over that later. But Celestial Brew, you pretty much want to use it on cooldown at 6 stacks. Obviously if you're not like taking damage or you need to save it for a tank bust or something, you save it, but that's kind of a learned thing. But yeah, Celestial Brew, very simple interaction. Let's go over stats next. So stats really hasn't changed that much. It's going to be eye level, most important, because eye level gives us agility, which gives us stagger, which is our primary mitigation, really important. And then verse, number 1, and then crit, and then mastery, and then haste is dead last. We don't really care too much about haste. So your stats, you pretty much want to be looking for something around 30% crit, 28% verse, and then whatever left over in mastery. And I'm leaning towards mastery file late game, but we'll see. That'll be changed later in the guide whenever that's all figured out. Right now, doesn't really matter too much, whatever file you prefer. But yeah, you want a good mix of high verse, high crit, and high like mid to low mastery. Mastery buffs all your abilities, because mastery for all tanks gives you a flat amount of attack power, and that flat amount of attack power gives you, or a flat percent of attack power, that gives you higher Celestial Brews, higher Gift of the Ox, more ability damage, more everything, just absolutely good. That also pairs well with Training of Nizal, which gives you even more mastery that's percent based. Consumables, main hand and offhand will be either Iron Claw Whetstone or the Weight Stone. Weight Stones are for like maces and stuff, and then Whetstones are for sharpened weapons like swords, axes, etc. Just attack power and weapons. Potion, Tempered Potion. Flask, it'll either be Tempered Verse, Tempered Aggression, or Tempered Mastery. Either one of those will good. It just depends which one we end up preferring. Rings, Radiant Versatility. Chest, Crystalline Radiance. Boots, Scout's March or Defender's March. Scout's March is speed. Defender's March is stamina. It's just personal preference, whichever you prefer. Legs, Stormbound Armor Kit. Cloak, Chant of Winged Grace. This is avoidance. And then you use the Leech enchant if you have 3 or more Leech pieces, because then it kind of gets a little bit more value. You can also use Leech enchants if there's not any significant AoE damage in that dungeon. It's pretty much personal preference. If you want to use Leech, use Leech. If you don't, then don't. Bracers, same thing as the cloak. Weapons, Authority of Radiant Power. You either use 1 or 2 depending on if you're dual wielding or two-hander. Either one there. Gems, you use Magnificent Jeweler settings. This will put 2 sockets in your rings and your neck. This is free 6 sockets. And then for gems, you want to use 1 unique culminating blasphemite. This will give you 181 primary stat and then crit effect per unique Algari gem color. You don't really play around the Algari gem color unique. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't scale hard enough. And then your actual gems that you either use Deadly Sapphire or Masterful Sapphire. Either one. It'll either be Verse Mastery or Verse Crit. You'll put this in every socket besides the 1 unique, and it just depends on what your stats are at that point in time. If you need more crit, then you go crit. If you need more mastery, you go mastery. And that's pretty much it for like the really basic enchants, gems, and everything. So let's talk about talents. So this is going to be the talent build we're going to be running. I'll have the link down below. It'll be in the guide actually, so we'll have the guide linked. And the biggest differences this season are no quick sip, no chi surge because we're Master of Harmony. We're also playing Anvil and Stave, and still no Ox Stance, still no Nizal. Let's go over first why Master of Harmony, right? So Master of Harmony, the reason this is better is 1, because of the Celestial Brew Chains. The Celestial Brew Chain is really good for Master of Harmony because we have 2 charges baseline, and that the 6 stack allows us to get max Celestial Brew cast constantly, and that gives us more uptime on Coalescence, which means you're doing 20% increased damage to the mobs, which gives us more damage on everything else, which gives us more vitality, etc., etc. And it's just really, really good. It's synergized with a tier set because our tier set empowers Blackout Kick, and Blackout Kick cleaves with Overwhelming Force. And this also gives us more Blackout combos, which gives us more Tiger Palms, which gives us more Overwhelming Force damage. And you can kind of see what I'm getting here. Like Master Harmony just synergizes so well with the tier set. I don't think Shadowpan is going to be better, but Shadowpan is also not like just bad. You can play both and be really successful. Talents here, choice nodes to go over. Rushing Jade Wind or Special Delivery. Still personal preference, but Rushing Jade Wind is, in my opinion, just worse than Special Delivery. Special Delivery does too much damage, and it's also just a non-global button. It just plays with your, it's just a passive off your Purifies and your Celestial Brews and stuff. So don't recommend Rushing Jade Wind. It's too many globals, especially when it's hasted during Lust. It's too much of a pain in the butt. South Solid Bims or Scalding Brew. If you play Rushing Jade Wind, you play Scalding Brew. If you don't play Rushing Jade Wind, you play Salsa. That's pretty much it. The reason we play this now instead of Scalding Brew is because of the tier set change. It's just more DPS to go this. This choice node doesn't really exist. It's always Shadowboxing Treads. Training of Nizal or Light Brewing. I always get asked this question, like, why isn't Light Brewing ever picked? The reason the Light Brewing's never really picked is because Training of Nizal, again, I talked about this earlier, the flat mastery it gives you. This gives you shielding. This gives you damage. This gives you self-healing. This just all adds up to being way stronger and more survivability than Light Brewing will ever give you. The only time you'd ever need Light Brewing is if you needed Celestial Brew up 20% more often to live a tank buster that happens so often that you don't have the defensives to keep up. So an exceedingly rare scenario that'll probably never happen. So yeah, Training of Nizal pretty much always. Black Ox Brew and Bob and Weave. Black Ox Brew I think is required now, and the reason I say that is because 1, it's more damage by quite a bit, especially if you're using it on cooldown, which you should be even in lower content. And the way you want to use this in lower content is just use 2 charges of Purify, 1 charge of Celestial Brew, and then hit your Black Ox Brew, and then send a Purify again, and then send a Celestial Brew again to refresh your Master of Harmony or Aspect of Harmony. And basically you just want to be using this on cooldown. You mostly just want to use it for the Purifies for damage. And higher level content, you don't use it literally on cooldown. You kind of use it just as a defensive. It's a little bit more nuanced. You want to like cycle through your Purifies and only use it when you're out of juice basically. But basically you can get use of it in lower level content and in higher level content. And lower level content it's more damage focused, and higher level content it's more survivability focused. Fort Brew Determination, the reason we go this is because of our tier set. It powers it gives us Fort Brew procs. Fort Brew procs, we we take Fort Brew improving talents, which means every proc we get extremely tanky. We also take Iron Shell Brew, which is big Fort Brew, and this again makes the procs really strong, so very, very good. And then Dragonfire Brew, Charred Passions. Charred Passions is probably more damage right now. I think it'll probably end up being more damage and more single target. Dragonfire Brew is close though, it's not far behind, so if you don't like playing Charred Passions, you can play Dragonfire Brew. Weapons of Order, there's no choice note here. Ox Stance and Nizao. So Nizao got buffed. It's still bad. It's just not worth press. It's not worth taking. Really don't, just never recommend playing this. You can play Call to Arms if you want. If you want to remove 1 point in High Tolerance or the point in Anvil to play Call to Arms, it's more damage. So if you want to squeeze out a little bit more damage in M+, you can do this. Not too important. But yeah, that's kind of the talents. Nothing too crazy. So the season start build will be a little bit different. So since we won't have our 4 set or anything, the season start build, since you get 2-piece week 1, we will probably, until you get 2 set, you'll run the live build as you can either run Master of Harmony or Shadowpan. If you're running Shadowpan, you remove Anvil for Chi Surge. If you're running Master of Harmony, you run Anvil, and then you run Quick Sip over Fort Brew D-Term until you get your 2-piece. Once you get your 2-piece, you run 2-piece, which means like current set 2-piece and then new set 2-piece. You remove Quick Sip for Fort Brew D-Term, Scalding Brew for Salsa, and then Anvil you keep the same, and then you pretty much run the new build as soon as you get 2-piece, and then you have all your strong Fort Brew procs and everything like that. One little choice note I forgot to go over is Mantra of Tenacity versus Mantra of Purity. Once you get 2 set, Mantra of Tenacity does become a lot stronger, so I do recommend trying that if you like it. I think it's nicer in lower level content, especially when you're not getting big purifies all the time. Beginning of the season, this will most likely be stronger due to you not having like a really, really high damage intake. Later in the season, like about a couple weeks in when you're doing higher keys, Mantra of Purity just becomes strictly better. Next up, races. What races do we play? Dwarf is just, if you're picking a min-max race, it's Dwarf. There's no competition. There's so many bleeds to get rid of, debuffs, physical damage reduction, etc. It's just overall the best pick. If you don't care about min-maxing, just play whatever aesthetically. I'm going to be playing like Void Elf, Night Elf, Human, Draenei, stuff like that. Whatever race you guys prefer, don't worry about it too much. So now let's go over the opener. There's going to be a video link to it in the guide. I'm going to go over it in voice and then I'm going to show you in video. So it's going to be Keg Smash, Breath of Fire, Blackout Kick, Weapons of Order, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Keg Smash ×2, Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Breath of Fire. Then you press Celestial Brew to get your Aspect of Harmony debuff up, and then Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm, Chi Burst Exploding Keg, and then Keg Smash, Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm. This is going to be like your whole beginning Weapons of Order sequence. And now I'll show you it in real time.
It's not ready. I can't use that item yet.
And that's whole opener. That's it. Nice and simple. This basically gets you your 4 stack of Weapons of Order. Then you Celestial Brew, and then you get your Aspect of Harmony debuff, and then you get your full Chi Burst Exploding Keg on them. And this basically gives you your biggest burst, and this also gives you a high chunk of Vitality. So the way like you expel and gain Vitality, whenever you build enough, so I'll show you like we build like 13%, and then you press it, you get this buff right here, and then it expels when you do damage. And you can see it doesn't take long to expel. Like, it expels pretty quick. In an AoE pack, it's so much faster. Like, it spells in like 1 second. Once that expel buff wears off, then you start building again. And you see there's a couple spell breaks. So when we Celestial Brew, we do Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm. By the time those 3 globals are done, the expel window will be also done. And the Chi Burst Exploding Keg will pretty much fill our Vitality immediately on AoE. So this will give you 2 big Vitalities back to back. And that's pretty much the opener. The priority after that is basically focusing on Blackout Kick on cooldown, Tiger Palm after Blackout combo, and then Keg Smash when capped, and then Rising Sun Kick. And those are like your core rotation abilities, and also Breath of Fire to fill and get Charred Passions up. Yeah, Blackout Kick, Tiger Palm is the most important, especially with tier set. You really, really want to be using Blackout Kick as your priority. This cleaves with overwhelming force, and it just is your most amount of damage. If you're looking, basically, if you're looking to improve on your rotation, just really set on a dummy and get the muscle memory of using Blackout Kick on cooldown. And you fit about 3 globals in between each Blackout Kick. When you get a tier set proc, which I'll show you here, Put the dummy for a little bit. When you get a tier set proc, you're going to pretty much just blackout kick, tiger palm, blackout kick, tiger palm, blackout kick, tiger palm. And that's gonna be your tier set proc every time. Now, if you're in weapons of order and your debuff's about to fall, sometimes you may do this. You'll do like blackout kick, tiger palm,
It's not ready.
and we'll wait, and then we'll blackout kick, rising sun kick, tiger palm. If you're in tier set, it'll be like blackout kick, tiger palm, blackout kick, rising sun kick, tiger palm. Then the weapons of order will get extended by rising sun kick, and you also won't dump your energy in a keg smash. And then after your like combo like that is over, then you'll go into your double keg smash, get those burnt out. But yeah, that's pretty much the rotation gist. You really just want to nail the opener down, and then 2, really focus on blackout kick on cooldown, tiger palm on empower, and then rising sun kick, keg smash filler. And then after that, you want to make sure you're using 6 stack Celestial Brew on cooldown to put up Aspect of Harmony, which puts up Coalescence. And then you want to always have Coalescence up like this. You want to have the Aspect of Harmony debuff up for whenever you press Chi Burst. So you see here, you want to have Aspect of Harmony up, and then you want to Chi Burst, and you always want to have that up for Exploding Keg too. So this dot will always be up for each exploding keg and chi burst, and that'll net you a lot of damage overall, and it'll net you a lot of extra vitality gain. But yeah, that's pretty much it for rotation. Again, all in the guide if you want to keep reviewing it. There's a video that ties to the opener. So one underrated damage thing as brew is special delivery usage and getting a lot of damage out of it. So I talked about it a little bit earlier, but basically when you're doing the opener, you want to fit in purifies, which kind of adds to the depth. So we'll go ahead and hit the tank dummy here. And we'll just do our rotation normally. And you can see we're fitting in purifies wherever we can.
I can't use that item.
And then we purify, and then we Blackhawks brew,
It's still
and then we purify again, and then we Celestial brew again. You see how we're keeping the dot up?
I can't use that item.
Not doing my rotation perfectly, but showing you like how to use special delivery more. And you can see how like we're getting so much like extra damage from special delivery, especially in a longer pull. You'll see how effective that really is. And especially in like really big AoE pulls. And you can also kind of see the power of the tier set as well when it procs. And then we put Aspect of Harmony up for our Chi Burst. And yeah, you get the idea basically, and you can see how much damage special delivery does. It's just an extra like 5% damage in big AoE pulls. I'll show you this pull right here. It does so much damage. Like big AoE pulls, special delivery does an absurd amount of damage, and you basically want to get in the rhythm of always using Blackhawks brew as much as you can. Ends up being a lot of damage over a key. You can get special delivery up to like 6, 7, 8% of your overall, depending on the mob density. And that's pretty much it for rotation and spells. Let's go over tank busters and how to deal with them. So tank busters this season, physical, you don't have to really worry about too much. You're going to live physical mostly with Celestial Brew. And since your Aspect of Harmony or Master of Harmony, you're going to have Celestial Brew for almost every tank buster, but we'll go over what you do for ones you don't. So for actual non-Celestial Brew cooldowns or tank busters, you want to prioritize Fort Brew first, get that on cooldown, and then Dampen, and then Zen Med. And then obviously Celestial Brew, you prioritize over everything. Since it's such a low cooldown, you want to get as many of these used as possible in the boss fight. And then Magic, same thing, Celestial Brew Prio. And then Diffuse is first. This is a minute and a half cooldown. You want to get as many of these against Magic Tank Buster as possible. Then Dampen Harm, since it's like really good for chunky magic damage. And then Fortifying Brew last. Or Fortifying Brew third, and then Zen Med last. Since Zen Med's such a long cooldown, you kind of want this as last resort. And then for mixed damage, now if you're doing mixed damage, you usually always pair a defensive with Celestial Brew, since the only defensive that's going to cover both is Dampen and Fort Brew. So when you have these two, you can probably no Celestial Brew. But if you have just Diffuse, you want to mix it with Celestial Brew. But the priority will be Diffuse plus Celestial Brew, and then Fortifying Brew, and then Dampen, and then Zen Med last. Zen Med you should also pair with Celestial Brew, because usually mixed damage tank busters knock you out of Zen Med on the very first hit, and if it's like a 2-part hit, the second hit won't get mitigated by Zen Med. But yeah, that's pretty much how you deal with tank busters. A tier list of how difficult the new dungeons are. None of them really felt hard as brew. I'd say the hardest are Motherlode and Priory, and then I'd have to say the second hardest ones are Cinder Meadery and Rookery, and Theater of Pain a little bit. Theater of Pain can hurt sometimes. And then Operation Mechagon, Dark Flame Cleft, and Operation Floodgate are all pretty easy for brew. Not too difficult, not too much to worry about. Comps, brew, you kind of just want to run physical cleave comp this season. So you want to run like brew, obviously, and then your healer can be Mistweaver or Resto Druid. Both of those are really good. And then your DPS, if you're running Mistweaver, you can be Feral, Warrior, BM Hunter, or you can run Rogue Hunter, Warrior, Rogue Hunter, Feral. Any mix of the three, you just want to have like a strong physical damage comp, and that'll probably be your best comp going into the season. Obviously, play with who you enjoy, play with what you like, but if you're trying to min-max, then worry about that. Let's talk about places we can use Zen Med. So main uses for Zen Med in season 2, we'll go over the Tank Busters, Keg Smash from Brewmaster Aldrear in Cinder Meadery, and then Bottoms Uppercut by IPA in Cinder Meadery, Rock Buster from Ol Wax Beard and Dark Flame Cleft, Oblivion Wave from Voidstone Monstrosity in the Rookery, Electro Crush from Big Mama, Operation Floodgate, Wallop from Demolition Duo, Operation Floodgate, Sludge Claws from Swamp Face in Operation Floodgate, and then Thunder Prunts from Giesel Gigazap in Operation Floodgate, Hateful Strike from Gore Chop in Theater of Pain, Necrotic Eruption from Coltarok in Theater of Pain, Reaping Scythe from Mordressa in Theater of Pain. This is a mixed damage one that we talked about, and then Platinum Pummel from Tussle Tonks in Operation Mechagon. All of these are bosses, by the way. Trash ones you very rarely ever use Slush or Zen Med on trash because it's so wonky and the timing has to be literally perfect. Not too much there, and that's the whole list. No force dodges in season 2. I will go over the concept of force dodging. So the concept of force dodging is basically building up mastery stacks by forcing yourself to take autos and then turning your face towards them when the tank buster is about to hit. For an example, we'd take our back here and we're building up mastery stacks, and then if the tank buster starts hitting, we'd face them as soon as they start casting like this, and it would dodge it. It's just really nice trick, and it's very simple to pull off. You pretty much would just use your like small defensives to take the auto, and then the big tank buster would do nothing. All right, let's go over gearing. So gearing is kind of gonna be pretty strict since there isn't many options to go off of. So trinkets, there's gonna be 2 philosophies of trinkets here. The first philosophy is gonna be what I prefer, and it's gonna be the like hard biz, and this is gonna be Signet of the Priory plus House of Cards. And the way you use this is you macro Signet of the Priory in with Weapons of Order, and that'll give you the first 20 seconds of Weapons of Order with Signet of the Priory. You'll get C7700 verse, and then once this falls off, you'll immediately hit House of Cards, and once you're in that House of Cards window, you'll have 10 seconds left of Weapons of Order plus whatever's left of the debuff after Weapons of Order. So you see we have House of Cards going for 10 seconds. And then you're going to see Weapons of War has 2 seconds left. And we have 7 seconds left of the debuff, and then the trinkets left as well. So you see we get the entire Weapons of Order window is covered by on-use trinkets. And this is just an absolute insane 2-minute window. It makes our windows very strong, and it gives us a lot of vitality throughout the whole thing. And yeah, it's just really good. And I think that's the best trinket setup. It's also double main stat trinket. Main stat trinkets are very powerful because it gives us stagger, and it makes us tanky even when we're not like in 2-minute window. And the other philosophy is like defensive trinkets. So we can go over the Ringing Ritual Mud. Ringing Ritual Mud is a verse stat stick and has an on-use shield, and it gets the cooldown, it gets reduced by 2 seconds every time you take periodic damage. This used to work with stagger. It no longer works with stagger, but you can use that, and that's an on-use trinket. I would only use that with 1 main stat trinket. Do not fall into the trap of using 2 shield trinkets that don't have main stat, because you'll be taking so much damage when those trinkets are off cooldown that it's not worth it. Only run 1 non-main stat trinket at a time. If you're running 1 of the non-main stat trinkets, so like say you're running Tome or Ringing Ritual Mud or Crumbustable Bomb Suit, all those will be on the screen. All these trinkets will be on the screen. You'd run it with like Signet of the Priory or Improvised Sephorian Pacemaker. And this Sephorian Pacemaker is a main stat trinket and gives you a crit proc. This procs every 60 seconds and lasts for 15 seconds. And every crit extends it up to 15 seconds. So you could have 30 seconds of the crit buff every 60 seconds, which is an exceedingly high uptime on a lot of crit, and which is just a very strong trinket. This will be our Abyss early season, unless you can get a House of Cards from Heroic early. And we'll probably, if you're a dungeon only player, this will be your trinket setup pretty much the entire season. Is Signet of the Priory plus Improvised Sephorian Pacemaker. And then whenever we get our dinars, whenever Blizzard announces how we get our dinars again, we will be buying House of Cards. That'll be our priority buy, and that's what we'll run. And that's pretty much the gist of trinkets. There's not too much exciting stuff for trinkets, unfortunately. Tome is good, but again, it's a non-main stat trinket, so it's not as much damage as you'd think for brew, and you lose out on so much defensive power. Now let's talk about gear. So let's go over the tier slots. This will be used for both the dungeon and the raid tier set list. So I'll be going over the raid set list first, and then I'll be going over the non-raider set list. First, you're going to be getting tier helm. This is high mastery, low haste. Pretty much all of these pieces but legs have haste, so we're going to be kind of picky choosy about it. This one is good, high mastery, low haste. It gives you a giant chunk of mastery, and we went over how good mastery can be. Shoulders, high crit, low haste. Again, low haste, which is good, and we get a lot of crit. We need crit. Crit gives us celestial fortune, which is double healing procs, and it increases our shield, increases our damage, etc. And then chest. Or let's go over legs first. Legs versus crit, the self-explanatory. And then the competition here is chest or gloves. So gloves gives you high haste, low verse, and chest gives you high haste, low crit. In my opinion, I think you run crit or the high haste, low crit, because while it is a lot more haste, it does also give you crit, and I think that the extra haste is actually quite nice, especially for our rotation smoothness. Later in the season, it'll be pretty nice, and we end up prioritizing crit more the later in the gear we get, because we get so much like verse, and we get a lot of on-use verse from Signet of the Priory, etc., etc. So verse ends up not being too much of an issue, and you end up kind of prioritizing crit, and the extra crit's nice. It'll kind of come down to personal preference, whichever one you prefer. You can run the tier gloves, or you can run the tier chest. You would run a dungeon chest or crafted chest along with dungeon gloves or crafted gloves. I'm going to be doing the chest setup, and then I'll be running crit mastery gloves. The gloves are called, you can either get the Enforcer sticky fingers from the raid, or you can get self-sanitizing hand wraps from M+, or any of the crit mastery gloves from M+. But yeah, let's go over the set list as a whole now. So helm, we're going to go over the raid gear first. Helm, tier helm, neck, flickering glow torque. This is from Dark Flame Cleft. Tier shoulders, candlebearer shroud, again, Dark Flame Cleft. Chest, tier chest. Wrist, hustlers anti-uppers. This is from the raid. Or crafted wrists with writhing armor banding. Then gloves, enforcer sticky fingers from the raid. Belt, adrenal surge clasp, crafted. Legs, tier legs. Boots, highest eye level boots catalyzed. This means you just get whatever your highest eye level boots are, and then you catalyze them. Abyss ring is the miniature roulette wheel. So the miniature roulette wheel is a raid ring that RNGs basically. This basically RNGs the stat. It has one heavy weighted stat and one low weighted stat, and ideally you get this with high crit or high verse. Either one is good, and then you want crit or mastery is the second one. And then the next one is Ritual Bone Man, which is a high verse, low mastery ring from Theater of Pain. You can also replace the miniature roulette wheel with a crafted ring. Trinkets, Signet of the Priory plus House of Cards again, like I said. Weapons, you can get the Giga Bank Breaker, which is a high crit, low mastery weapon from Raid. This is a two-handed polearm. Two-handed is our Abyss. It is non-negotiable. Two-handed is just strictly better once again. And then if you don't have the Giga Bank Breaker, you can also run, if you get it from your vault, you can get the Galleytech Turbo Tiller or a crafted weapon. And that's it for the raid tier list. The non-raid tier list, this includes non-raid items. I already went over the dinars. Once we get the dinars, you'll be buying the one raid item, the House of Cards, but this is a strict non-raid item set list. So tier, same thing again. Tier helm, neck, same thing. Flickering glow torque, Dark Flame Cleft, it's crit over verse. Tier shoulders, candlebearer shroud, Dark Flame Cleft, verse over crit. Chest, tier chest, wrists, crafted wrists with writhing armor banding. Gloves, crafted gloves or self-sanitizing hand wraps, crit mastery. There's 3 crit mastery gloves from dungeons, so either of those if you get them. Belt, adrenal surge clasp. Legs, tier legs. Boots, highest eye level boots again, catalyzed boots or verse over crit. And then rings, Ring of Perpetual Conflict and Ritual Bone Band, both from Theater of Pain. One is crit mastery, the other is verse over mastery. And then crafted ring is your second option, Ritual Bone Band, you guarantee run, and then crafted ring if you can't get a high level Ring of Perpetual Conflict. Trinkets, the Abyss is Signet to the Priory, and then Trinket 2, Improvised Sephorian Pacemaker, which is these two right here. Double main stat, very good. Weapons, Galley Tech Turbo Tiller, which I showed earlier, or a crafted weapon. Embellishments, really quick, as you saw, Adrenal Surge class plus crafted bracers with Riveting Armor Banding. That's our Abyss. It'll be on the screen above. And then your first craft, our very first craft will be a two-handed weapon. So it'll be week 2 of the season. So we should get a full spark next week, or the week that 11.1 comes out. And that should give us 2 halves, which give us a full spark. And then we'll get a half on seasonal launch. And then the week after the season launch, we should get our two-hander. And you'll craft that with Ascension, and you'll keep one of your like season 1 items with Riveting Armor Banding. So say like bracers or cloak, whatever your like lowest piece is, you want to keep one piece of Riveting Armor Banding so that gets buffed. And you want to craft Ascension. The reason we craft Ascension is just it's just the best weapon enchant to put on a two-hander, because we're not going to have anything else. We're using 2 sparks for this, which also gives us 120 crests for to use otherwise. Your second craft will be Adrenal Surge Clasp. Then the third craft will be gloves with Riveting Armor Banding. If you haven't looted 678 gloves from Vault, if you've looted 678 gloves from Vault, then you craft wrists. And then the fourth craft will be whatever slot you need to fill. The priority is main stat pieces over jewelry. Main stat pieces include cloak, bracers, boots, belt, gloves, and chest if you want to go the chest route or crafted chest route. And that's it for crafting. Now let's talk about Cersei Circlet information. You'll keep this ring on until you get 2 rings at heroic eye level. So heroic eye level from raid would be 655, 658-ish. Yeah, 655, 658. Hero track is 3 out of 6. So 655 rings. Once you get both of your rings from M plus at 655, you'll replace them both and just run stat rings, and you'll get rid of it pretty fast. But until then, you'll run this setup: Stormbringer's Rune Citron, Fathom Dweller's Rune Citron, and then Legendary Skipper's Citron. You can replace the Legendary Skippers with Stormbringer's Rune Citron, and Stormbringer's is just your highest secondary. But yeah, you want to replace this pretty fast and replace with the rings below. That's pretty much it for gearing, and that's pretty much it for the guide. I just went over all the information in the guide, went over everything really important. I hope you guys enjoy the video. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys are looking forward to next season. I will be posting the routes day 1 of the season. Put that in the guide as well. I'll be putting the routes in there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will be posting informational brew videos throughout the season. Any updates that happens, any updates with Shadowpan, Master of Harmony, buffs, whatever that happens, got you guys the information. I'll be going over a basics brew video eventually that goes over stagger, how to maximize stagger, how to play around that whole kit interaction in general. And that'll be like a kind of an important thing. And that'll be geared towards lower end content and higher end content. So I'll explain how to play around stagger and higher end content, how to play it around in low content. It's a pretty lengthy video, so that's why I didn't include it in the guide. But yeah, that's it guys. Have a happy season 2. Enjoy your season launch and have a fantastic day.